Welcome everyone to this Celonis demo of the Planning Parameter Optimization app in Celonis. Effective planning parameters are essential for timely material replenishment, helping to avoid excess inventory, stockouts, and unnecessary costs. However, managing this at scale requires continuous analysis of evolving consumption, replenishment patterns, adjusting lead time, safety stock, etc. And, without an automated solution, material planners often review these parameters sporadically, sometimes missing critical shifts in demand or supply patterns that requires updates. In this demo, we'll show how Celonis empowers material planners to optimize planning parameters at scale, reducing excess inventory and preventing stockouts, as well as unnecessary costs. Let's dive into it. First of all, in this view, you can see the total number of materials, recommendations, as well as some accepted as well as rejected recommendations. I'll come to that in just a bit. The main view that we should be concerned with is this graph over here, which shows the planned versus recommended lead time. So for each of your different materials, you have one dot here that shows the planned versus recommended replenishment lead time. As you can see, for some of them, the recommended and planned are quite close. Whereas if you go away from the curve, you start to see quite some discrepancies. For example, this material here has a planned lead time. So in your master data, 60 days, whereas in Celonis, the recommendation is 25 days. We'll come to how this recommendation lead time is calculated in just a minute. Down here in material plan table, you can see different materials currently filtered by the order of priority, which means prio 4 here are your most important materials. You can also see the classification that is used for these materials, as well as the classification, whether it is under stock, excess stock, active, or perhaps in stock out. Then you see the planned replenishment lead time, as well as the recommended replenishment lead time over here. As a material planner, I'm curious to investigate this important material and see what could be some recommendations and some actions that can be taken to update the replenishment lead time to better match our actuals. If I click on this, I then have a number of tabs at the top. When looking into this material, we can see that Celonis recommends a number of different updates. We can see that they recommend to update the purchase lead time, as well as updating the safety stock level. We can see the current lead time of 8.4 days, and we can also see the actual lead time of 15 days. Then we can see that the safety stock is currently 91,000. The recommendation from Celonis is to update this to 137,000. Looking into the lead times tab, I can then see that my planned and actual do in fact differ quite a bit. And then I can make the decision to validate or infirm whether the update recommended by Celonis is accurate. I would normally do this just based on conversation with suppliers or my own expert knowledge on this. With this app, you can now also have actual data to prove based on previous orders placed. We can generate an actual replenishment lead time based on the average, also accounting for outliers and other biases. The useful part of this is it saves time and it can be much easier for a material planner to update and confirm these recommendations. If I were to then validate this lead time recommendation, I could go back into my recommendation tab here and essentially execute on this directly. If needed, I can select to update the lead time with my actual calculated value, or perhaps if I think this would be slightly lower, I can also update it with a custom value. If I choose that this recommendation is not quite correct, I can also choose not to update and to discard the recommendation. Similarly, I can look into the consumption tab here to see what my past and future consumption would look like. In doing so, I can also see what my safety stock currently is at 91,000 for this material, as well as the new recommended safety stock level of 137,000. As we can see here, it does seem like the consumption tends to go up and higher time over time, where we now are currently sitting at a consumption rate that is per month very close to our safety stock. Hence, we might need to update this safety stock to account for that increase in consumption so that we don't end up with a stockout situation. In looking at this as a material planner, I can then see does increasing or decreasing safety stock actually makes sense. And once again, much like our lead times, if we do accept the recommendation, we can go back to our recommendation lead time and choose to update the safety stock level with the recommendation, or perhaps with a different value that I think better fits our needs. In addition, there is the powerful tool of simulations in Celonis. As mentioned, we can then see, based on a simulation, let's say I expect that the consumption in the next couple of months will increase by 25%. I can then write down a 25% increased consumption in here and say, based on this formula here, I would then be able to calculate what my daily consumption would look like in the future on a daily basis. And according to this, also recommend a different safety stock. As a final but optional step, I can also write all my simulated values back into the source system so that there is a direct integration between Celonis and the master data updates. Once I'm done with this task, I can perhaps say that I've updated it with the actual, I've updated the lead time with the actual, and I've updated the safety stock level with the recommendation, and mark each of these as closed. And then my task as a material planner is done for this material. And I can then continue on with other very important materials, such as head unit or driver seats, and further deep dive into each of these materials to see should the planning parameter be optimized, be updated to the recommendation level provided by Celonis, or should they be updated to a slightly different value. Overall, we've seen that this app can be very useful for updating your planning parameters across the board, and can also be used to prioritize which materials should be first updated. The automated calculation of a recommended safety stock level and lead time are very useful and very time-saving for material planners, and can save tremendous amounts of time and generate great amounts of value. As we can see here at the top, we can also see that according to what actions have been taken already in Celonis, we can see that a number of value was realized, probably due to our planning parameters being much more accurate and realistic, meaning we have less situations of stock out, of understock, and also less excess stock. Thank you all for listening to this demo. Feel free to reach out for any questions whatsoever, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.